Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Music Makes Me Dance. My name is Natasha and you're listening to my latest podcast that covers all things concerts. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about Travis Scott and his most recent tour, Circus Maximus, for his recent album, Utopia. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like button after you watch the video and definitely hit the subscribe button so you can keep in touch and get notifications when I've got new episodes coming up. I'm always reviewing concerts. I will be talking about future concerts, past concerts, festivals. We're going to introduce some comedy shows. So if you guys want to hear about all things shows, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified. One of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life. Travis Scott kills live. You guys have to go see him live. It is absolutely amazing. Such a good show to watch. The crowd's super hype. The music's awesome. The lights are good. It's just epic. You're standing there and you're just waiting for him to come out. Your heart's pounding. It's so good. What makes a concert epic? For me, I'd say there's 4 parts. The performer, the artist, the band, whoever you're actually going to see. The second part, I'd say, is going to be the visuals, what the stage is set up like. Do they have changes in between songs? Do they have dancers? Do they have a band? Things like that. That's more of the extra part of the performance. Then audio, that also obviously includes if they have a band or a live DJ, but does it sound well? Are the acoustics good in the arena? Are you able to hear the song well? And then I'd say the last part, a big important part for concerts, would be the crowd. The crowd will make or break a show. You know this from watching live music, or if you go to comedy shows, it can have a huge effect on the vibe of the entire show. So basically, those are my 4 things for what makes a concert epic. Performance, the setup, the audio, and the crowd. And then there's a bonus category that I like to call bonus, and that would be if they bring up another performer. Sometimes they have guest artists, so that's always a fun one. If you go to see a show and then somebody else pops up that you wish you'd seen, or it just makes it more fun when artists bring up guest artists. If we break down these categories that I think that make a performance great, it'll pretty much explain why this Travis concert I thought was one of the best I've ever been to. It's for sure in my top 5 concerts. Performer. So based on how that performer is, Travis Scott is awesome at live shows. He's a great performer. He talks to the audience. He's really good about putting everything together. So it's a whole event. You are into the music. The crowd is good. They have great visuals. He has effects. And there's a whole bunch of other cool stuff he did throughout the concert that I'll keep explaining as we kind of go through this episode. The second thing that I think is important is that setup. So how did Travis have the setup for this particular concert? It was in the round. So as opposed to you going to a show and there's a stage and then the audience is all on one side, this one used the arena as it does for the basketball games. I was going to say Heat games because we're here in Miami. So it's going to be in the round. So no matter where you're sitting, there's not just the front of the stage. It's going to be, the front is everywhere. And so Travis basically had what looked like a runway, but not a straight runway. It curved, and then he had a lot of rocks, and felt like you were somewhere in mountains or in where there's big boulders and things like that. So it felt a little bit like nature in some ways. And because you had all those rocks and it wasn't just a symmetrical, nice, clean cut stage, it was a little bit different. He also had on the top visuals similar like they do for the basketball games, and you have the screens, but they were round on the top. So if you are sitting in that 300, 400 section, you had a great view for the screens. On the bottom, you don't really need to look at them as much because you're already closer, so you can see him very well, but it's also a cool effect just to look up and see these big screens and he's on the big screen, or they showing different people. So that part's really cool. It's also great when you don't have such great seats and you're at the top, and then that way you can really see what's happening in the show. So both of those parts was awesome, just the setup and his visuals. He did have smoke effects. He had lights. He had different colored lights for different songs. So there were no lasers at this show, but there were a lot of lighting changes that matched each particular song. The audio for this concert was great. I don't always love going to the Kasaya Center for shows just because it depends where you sit, how well you hear the audio. It depends who's putting on the show and how well they set up their audio, because I have seen other performances that audio has been terrible, and then I've been to other ones where it's been good. So it also might be dependent on that artist and how they have it set up for their shows. For this one, it was DJ, so there wasn't live band playing with Travis. It was just DJ set, but it was wonderful. It was really good. Everything sounded awesome. I was in the 100 section. I'd like to know if anybody was sitting up high, if it felt any different, but I do feel like this audio was probably good no matter where you sat. He also had already done this show back in November, because this tour started last year, and then this was an additional show that he added on in January for Miami, because when he extended his tour, he also added, the last show was Orlando. He had already done it at that theater, at that stadium, and so I know that definitely makes a big difference when you've already been there, so you already know how the acoustics are, and I thought that part of the show was great. No complaints whatsoever. One of the biggest parts that makes the concert epic is the crowd. And I have to say, this is by far the best crowd I have ever been a part of for a concert. I have seen Travis before, Rolling Loud. I'll get into that after. But for his own tour, this was the most hyped crowd I have ever seen. Sometimes you go to shows and people sit down for most of it, or they only stand up for certain songs. Some shows, they stand up for all the songs. Some of them, everybody's singing, or the artist doesn't even have to sing, and they hold out the mic and the audience is singing the whole song. It really depends on the artist and their fan base. For this one, Travis fans are ride or die. They are super lit. It's awesome. The whole time they're all standing, they're jumping, they're singing. It's definitely a younger crowd that adds to that, because they're just standing and dancing around basically the whole time. So I literally was jumping for 2 hours. I was very, very sore the next day. It was so fun though. It's such a good crowd. When everybody sings and everybody's in the vibe and everybody's having a good time, it's always better when it's like that, I find, than when people are just kind of sitting and taking it in. This is almost like you are a part of that show. This crowd is what made this concert so amazing. Travis Scott fans are the most lit. They sing all the songs. They stand up and dance the whole time. Everything was a huge party. They're really involved. They sing everything. They're recording everything. They're just such a hype fan base. So if you're looking for a concert that the audience is really into it, you're to be jumping and singing, Travis is such a good one to go to, because his fans are absolutely amazing. I love going to his shows. I've seen him at Rolling Loud a couple times, but by far seeing his own tour, it's so worth it if you've never seen one of his own shows. One of the cool things that Travis did at this show was he actually picked fans from the audience to go up on stage. So he would pan the cameras out and everybody would be screaming, and he'd pick a couple people and they'd be hooked up with harnesses, and then they'd go on these rock fixtures that were part of the stage setup. And then they'd be on the big screen, and he did that for multiple songs and with multiple different groups of people. Thought that was awesome. It makes the audience involved. Everybody was super hyped for the people that got picked. And then the people that got picked got to take some cool videos, because they got to have their phones while they're up on these high rises. So I'm sure some of those videos are out there. It was amazing for him to do that, to pull out audience members. He also would showcase young audience members on the big screens and their parents for bringing them to the show. Sitting in front of me was a family. It was fun to have all the ages at this event, and Travis was very inclusive of all ages, which was fun to see all these young kids on the big screen, super excited. Some of them, I'm sure, was their first concert. That was an awesome part. Very audience interactive. If you're looking for a show that's audience interactive, Travis is a really good one. Some bands and some artists don't do that as much. They're more performing, but they don't bring the audience in. This one, he really brings the audience in and makes you feel like you're just part of this whole epic moment. So it becomes a magical night. Instead of you just watching a show, you're just part of this entire event. This show started 10 p.m. If tickets say 8, the show starts at 10. This is usually typical for these events. If you don't usually go to concerts, they never start at the time of the ticket, and a lot of people have an opener. Travis had different openers for this particular tour. Each city you go to, he'll have different people. Some people repeat at various shows, but that's very typical for any concert that you go to, that they're gonna have an opening band. And even if they don't have an opening band, they'll probably not gonna start right at the time where the ticket says they'll start. What songs did Travis play at this concert? This concert was a nice mix. He did songs from all 4 of his albums. So Travis has 4 albums. He's got Rodeo. Then he came out with Birds of the Trap, Sig McKnight. Then he came out with Astro World. And then his most recent is Utopia. He actually hadn't been on a solo tour in 5 years since Astro World. And so this was his first tour on his own. Prior to that, in the last 5 years, he has performed at music festivals. I actually saw him at Rolling Loud back first time in 2019, 2021, and then in 2023. My first experience in 2019 was when I noticed that Travis Scott is epic at performing. I remember being there all day and seeing people just walking into the event at 10:30, 11 p.m. just for Travis's. They didn't even go to the rest of the festival. They literally just got tickets for that event. And that was my first taste of, hold on, there's something special here when people are just coming to a huge music festival just for one artist. And that was the first time I saw him live. And from then on, I thought Travis is awesome. And anytime that I can see him live, I'm definitely I'm going to go check it out. He performed at Rolling Loud 2021, 2023. Those are the ones that I went to. Epic every time. They're awesome. He does songs from all the albums that he has out. He'll sometimes do some new music. So at this last Rolling Loud in 2023, so last July, he did songs from Utopia that hadn't been out yet. It was awesome. You kind of get a little sneak peek. For this particular tour, Travis did Rodeo, 90210, Nightcrawler, Anecdote. Then he did from Birds in the Trap, Sig McKnight. He did, SDP, Interlude, Goosebumps. And then he did a whole bunch of songs from Utopia. Thank God, Modern Jam, God's Country, Sirens, Topia Twins, Fiend, and Telekinesis. He did do Fiend a whole bunch of times. He actually did it, let me see. He did it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 times. You might think, whoa, why is he doing it so many times? The intro of that song goes so hard that I can see why he did that so many times, and it just gets the audience so hyped. He would play the beginning, rewind it, play it again, rewind it. Everybody got even more and more excited every time he started that song again. And it was awesome. It was cool. Artists don't usually do that. And it was fun to be in that when he's just repeating the song and you get to hear it again and hear the intro. Sometimes you wish you'd hear songs more than once in a concert, because that's it. They do it once and then it's done. You're not going to hear it again. So I kind of like that he rewinded. I think that some of you other artists, maybe other artists want to do that too. That would be so nice. You get to hear songs multiple times. Just do the whole concert again. Okay, past tours. Travis has had 4 other tours for his other albums. So he basically has had a tour for each album. So he had a tour back when Rodeo came out. He had a tour when Birds and Trap, Sig McKnight came out. He had another tour when Astro World came out. And then he had the one for Utopia. He extended the tour, which is really fun. I know some people that went to both shows in Miami back. They had one in November, and then they brought it back in January. The other part that makes concerts epic is that bonus one I told you about when they bring out a guest. So at this concert, Travis Scott brought out Rae Sremmurd. He did No Type. That's one of my favorite songs. I love watching them live. That was really fun. Everybody was super hyped and excited. He brought out different people at different concerts that he had over his tour. And then at the last one, he brought out Kanye. That was in Orlando. This tour started in the fall of 2023. And Travis went to various cities. And then he actually extended this tour and it went into 2024 in January. And that's when I got to see him, was for the second time he did Miami, which was January 28th. He had one back in November. Having been to his show, I would have definitely gone to both. Travis is one where you might want to check out both shows, or if any artist that you really like, sometimes they have multiple shows, it's worth going. They'll do different songs sometimes, or it's just fun just to get to see it again, because that tour, most of the time, once you see one tour, not most of the time, they're never going to do the same tour again. Travis also played songs from Astro World. He did some of his big hits. He did Sicko Mode, No Bystanders. That's one of my favorite songs. He did Can't Say, Butterfly Effect. So he had a nice mix of a bunch of different songs from multiple albums. It's fun when artists do that. Sometimes they just do the new album, which I understand. You just want to showcase the new stuff. But it's always nice when you get to hear some of the old ones, especially if you couldn't go to one of those tours. So if you have a tour for each album, but then you miss one or you can't go, it's nice when artists repeat those songs. So Travis does that. He does a really good job of mixing it up and not always picking the same hits from the old albums. He'll pick different ones. So when I saw him at Rolling Loud, it was different than when I saw him the year before to this concert. And it's always fun when artists mix it up because they have so many songs. You never know which songs people really like and people really want to hear. So I always think it's important to kind of mix that up, and then just so you can see what that feedback is when you perform. All right, guys, let's talk about the Kasaya Center. So if you're from Miami, you've probably been to the Kasaya Center. If you haven't been to the Kasaya Center, I'm going to give you some tips. Or if you have been and had a hard time trying to figure out where to park, where to eat, what's the best way to get there, there are some options. If you're driving, the closest place to park obviously will be at the arena. The arena is going to have the most expensive parking, but it is going to be the closest to the venue. That being said, sometimes parking in those is a little bit difficult when it's time to leave. If you're leaving at the same time as everyone, it could be a traffic jam. The Kasaya Center is located on Biscayne Boulevard, and that's just one way. So it's by the water. So there's only one way to exit basically. And so that could become an issue. There's also parking at Bayside. Bayside is a little marketplace located right next to the Kasaya Center. There's restaurants, there's shops. They have a Ferris wheel now. Bayside's been redone, so it's nice now. It was really cool back in the day, and then it kind of died down a little bit, so now they brought it back. And it's fun. If you like to go to Heat games, you can go to Bayside before, grab a bite to eat, and then head over to the Kasaya Center. Open lots across the street, same thing. They're also pretty pricey. They could be $40 to $50 to park there. It is closer, probably easier to exit than the arena. But again, a lot of people park there, and so the traffic jam does get serious when it's time to leave. The other option you have is to park on one of the many garages that are in downtown. Miami-Dade has some garages on 5th, on 3rd. You do have to walk a little bit more, but it's easier if you get there early. You can just park there and take your time walking, and then when you're gonna leave, you're already far away enough from the crowd that I've never experienced any traffic leaving from a show when I've parked at one of those garages that are a little bit further. And they're all good. So, and some of them are $15, which is a lot better than $40. So if you're looking for a cheaper alternative, I would suggest parking in one of those. Once you figured out your parking, the other option would be to take the metro. So you could, if you're coming from, let's say, South, or you're in Kendall, you can drive to Dadeland. You can take the metro from Dadeland, and then it'll take you to downtown, and then you can walk over to the Kasaya Center. A little bit of a walk, but you don't have to take your car. So that is another option if you're into taking the metro rail. It just doesn't come from so many spots, so you can get it from the 27 station, the 37 station. There's a couple stations that you can kind of pick the metro up if you're interested in that and you don't want to park. And of course you can Uber or taxi or one of those. I don't know if people take taxis, but Uber, Lyft. All right, when you get there, the entrance is right in the front. There's big stairs. I mean, you can't miss it. There is a side entrance. So if the front entrance is very packed, there is an entrance on the north side of the stadium. It's not as large, but there's always way less people. So you could walk around to the north side, or if for some reason you parked on the north side somewhere over there, you can, like if you parked by the Omni or by the Arch Center, those parking areas. So if you're coming from that side, there is another entrance. When you get to the main entrance, there's going to be the first security check, which they're basically just making sure you have tickets. Once you get in through there, you do have to go through the metal detector. I always suggest ladies take one of those clear bags. I have a clear fanny pack, or you can just take any kind of clear purse. It could be a clutch, it could be a crossbody bag, anything that is clear. It's way easier to go through security. They don't have to rummage through your bag. They can just see everything. They just flip it around. So I find that makes it much faster, much easier. I always take a clear bag to every event, and I always check to see what they allow. Some events don't allow certain cameras, some events don't allow certain bags at all, and then you'll have to go back to your car to put it back. Phones you can take. If it's an event that they don't want you filming, maybe they'll have those yonder bags you have to put your phone in and then it locks it. But usually for the music shows, they don't typically do that. I've seen it more for comedy shows. And so anyways, that's just an option, is having a clear bag. That way you don't have to, worry about them sending you back to your car because you have something you're not supposed to have. So when you get in, you are pretty much on the bottom level. You just go up one more escalator, and now there's going to be merch on sale. Most of the I would say for the Travis concert, they had merch on sale on the bottom, and they had a level up. So there's a couple of places where they had merch. There was a very long line for merch. Travis fans, some fans I noticed are just more into buying merch, and some are not. And so this particular one, there was giant merch lines. So if you wanted to get something, that's definitely one. If you're thinking about going to a Travis show in the future, I would definitely suggest getting there early so you can get merch early. I did notice though that they had merch on sale outside 2 locations. They had merch on sale outside right at the entrance, and then they had merch on sale outside in the patio. So the Kasaya Center has some patio sections that if you want to sit and eat, you can order your food at the stands. They have different vendors, and then you can go ahead and take it outside. They also have some open balconies that have some nice views, so a lot of people go there so you can take photos because you can see the beach. It depends on which one you're coming out downtown, but there's a couple balcony areas that are on the higher levels. So if you see one of those, go outside, check it out, because most of the time they have a good view and you can get a really nice photo. Let me see. Merch we talked about. The food and drinks. There's one downside. The Kasaya Center tends to stop selling drinks and food at 10 o'clock. Now the show usually starts at 10 o'clock. If the ticket says 8, the show's gonna start 9 or 10. That does pose a little problem. If you wanted to get something in between the show, you have to get it before. So I would always check with those vendors what time they're gonna close in case you wanna have water, something to drink, something to eat. And then if you're planning on eating there, you just want to get there early enough that you can get something before those vendors close. This is one of the only places where I see this happen. The last concert I reviewed, Tool at the Hard Rock, the Hard Rock doesn't close, so they're always going to be open and always lots of food options and lots of drink options. But the Kasaya Center, they definitely, every concert I've been to for a while now, they close it at 10. So you want to keep that in mind if you need to get something to eat or something to drink. Everything else is open, bathrooms obviously. It's just the food and drink portion. What's the best place to sit depends on what you're going to. Obviously people want to be closer to the floor, but like I said, at this Travis concert, the top part was also good because he had the screens and it was so interactive that I do feel like if you were up high, you also had a really awesome show. But the 100 section is probably the best unless you're into the floor. He did have that pit around his stage that I talked about that looked like a runway, and then there were sections where there was people standing. I like to have actual seats because in that way, if you want to go get something to eat, you can come back and your spot's there and nobody has to hold it for you. After the 100 section, you have your lounges, and then they've got the 300 section. That one's okay too. It's just a little bit higher. And then the 400 section, of course, is really high. If you are scared of heights, I don't recommend it because it feels very high up. The Kasaya Center, the seats are very inclined, so it feels a little bit like you're gonna fall. You're not gonna fall, but that's how I feel if I sit too high up. What else happens at the Kasaya Center? The Miami Heat play at the Kasaya, so that's what it's used for a lot. And then of course a whole bunch of music events, but you catch all the Heat games there. It's very fun. If you haven't been, you can get cheaper tickets up high. Just constantly check because sometimes when it gets close to a game, you can find tickets and then you can check out one of the Heat games. They're really fun. Let's talk upcoming events. Upcoming events at the Kasaya Center in Miami, Florida. One of the big ones coming up March 9th is UFC. If you're a UFC fan, Sean O'Malley's fighting. That's going to be an awesome event. I think it's sold out already. I'm not 100% sure, but you can check. Tickets were really expensive for that. UFC usually is because they don't bring it down here a lot. I got to go to one of them. It's really fun. If you're into UFC, it's definitely worth going to one of those live. Then some big names that are coming. There's Madonna coming in April. She's doing 2 shows, April 6th and 7th. Bad Bunny comes in May, and he does the weekends. So he's got 24, 25, 26. So there's 3 nights available for Bad Bunny. June, it's pretty stacked, actually. There's Luis Miguel, Justin Timberlake, Blink-182, and Jennifer Lopez just announced. Luis Miguel's doing 2 nights. He's doing Saturday, Sunday. That will be June 8th and 9th. And then Justin Timberlake's doing Saturday the 15th. Blink-182 has Friday the 21st. And then J-Lo has Friday the 28th. So June is pretty stacked at the Kasaya Center if you're interested in going to some shows over the summer. In October, Usher's coming and he's doing 3 days. So he's got a Friday, Saturday, Monday. That would be October 11th, 12th, and 14th. If you like Usher, he definitely puts on a good live show. He had his residency in Vegas. Those are always fun to check out when artists have residencies. They're really good because they're set. They're at the same spot. I'll do an episode about residencies. Those are awesome. They're really good because it's like a Broadway show where they're always doing it. So the dancers, the lights, the setup, the stage, the costumes, it's always a little bit extra, I feel like, than if it's just a regular tour, because they don't have to travel around with all their stuff. It's just there in Vegas. That makes a big difference. When you're on tour, you're bringing your whole setup for every event, and that's a lot more stuff to travel with. So those residencies are really cool if you can catch one of those. How do you find out about all these events? I would definitely subscribe to your favorite artist. I'll go to their page. So you can go to Travis Scott's page and just sign up to his email list. You can go to the Kasaya Center if you're in Miami and sign up to theirs. They have a whole list of their upcoming events, and you can just put your email in and they'll give you notifications. You can also sign up to your favorites through Ticketmaster. And so you would go to Ticketmaster, create an account. If you already have an account, you can search a band and then it'll have the option for favorites, and then you can start adding favorites there. And those would be the three top ways to know what's upcoming. Is going to be the artist subscription, it's going to be the venue subscription, and it's going to be Ticketmaster. You can also check radio stations. They do have contests. You can win tickets. You can call in and win tickets, and you can just get notified also who's coming in town. If you have Spotify, whoever you listen to regularly, they're going to also send you concert updates for that. There's another app called Bands in Town. They'll send you updates. I will let you guys know more about different ways to find out about concerts through those kinds of apps. There's Live Nation. So the big ones that I find are useful is going to be Ticketmaster, Live Nation, Spotify, Bands in Town. There's SeatGeek. There's a few cool ones that you can get tickets. Some of them have ticket sales, or they have extra tickets and they're cheaper. There's some ways that you might want to check around. That way you guys can get to see your favorite artist live, because it's awesome. All right, let's see what else. If you guys are on Travis's site because you're signing up to his subscription to get notified for tour dates and albums and merch, he also has a whole section from Utopia that you can get vinyls, you can get CDs. I personally love the vinyls. He actually has some vinyls that they have different photos on them, so you can pick which one you like. So I suggest head over there, check out what they have. Any of your favorite artists, go to their web pages and just see there's new merch. You can get t-shirts and sweatshirts and vinyls and CDs and all kinds of goodies. And that's another way to support your favorite artists. All right, I'd like to say thank you guys for tuning into Music Makes Me Dance. My name is Natasha, and this is your podcast to catch up on all things concerts. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments, or if you got me on Instagram, send me a message. If you have any shows that you're thinking about going to and you need some help about how to get there, or just some info if I haven't talked about that venue yet, just send me a message and I'll be sure to put that in the next episode. We're definitely going to be talking about festivals. We're going to talk about Vegas residencies, and we're going to be talking about some of those summer tours coming up. Remember to hit the subscribe button and like the episode if you guys enjoyed, and you can keep up to date on all things concerts. My name is Natasha. Thank you guys for joining in.